Hey, I'm John Storms. What I'm going to talk about today is processing all the new Christmas lights that I picked up this year. So every year it's kind of a tradition. We kind of go crazy and we buy a ton of lights. So kind of wedged in there in that thin shelf are all the new stuff. And of course it goes all the way back. There's a whole case of new stuff, some new stuff up there, and of course lots of stuff up here. And it's all squirreled away, but it's a lot of lights. The thing is, when you got a lot of lights, if you're not organized, it's very easy to lose track of what you have. And so when you're trying, the next step, when you're trying to plan next year's show, you really want to know what you have so you can plan yourself out a nice show without having a lot of waste. So first thing I do when I get a new set of lights is I, take a look. It's like, okay, this is 25 count. And I want to label the lights because I don't keep the boxes. Yeah, that makes it so they take up a lot of room. So what I do is on the end plug here, I'll actually come in here and I'll mark 25. That way I'll always know that there are 25 lights here, so that when you're putting up your lights in the season, you can keep track of how many lights are actually on your house. Then over here, these are warm whites, and especially with warm whites and cool whites, I like to put the color on the plug. That way I can keep them separate. I don't like mixing warm whites and cool whites generally, or if I do, I like to do it deliberately. Then the other thing I'll put on here is I like to keep track of the total length of wire that I have. Just something I like to keep track of. I think it's a fun metric. So this is 14 feet of lighted length. So they're 25, 14, and then these are C9s. I'll put that on there too. That way I always remember. Okay, next thing I do is I come over here and I find the spare bulbs. Now I used to just take all the spare bulbs and toss them in a bin, and I got a great big bin full of spare bulbs. But it's hard to figure out which bulbs go with what. So what I do now is when I buy a new set of lights, and I have a whole bunch of these from Walmart, is the first box I'll pop open and I'll turn it into the light box. So I put all the spare bulbs in here. I'll label this spare bulbs, and then I'll stick this in my bin. And then it's easy to remember, or easy to find, my spare bulbs when I have some go out. And with LED lights, that's a big deal because they often rust. Then what I do for storage is, since these take up some space, so I'll take the lights. Some people will ball their lights up. I'm not a ball man, I'm a bag man. What I do is I take one string of lights, put them in the bag, tie them off shut, and there you go. And then they deflate with air. You deflate the air out of them, and then you can pack a whole bunch per bin. And that's what are in all of these bins. There's lots and lots of plastic grocery bags full of lights. And one string per bag. The strings tend not to tangle, and it's easier for me to keep track.